Okay, good morning. I am Natasha Richmond and I am the Programme Manager for the Stepladder programme. I'm just going to give you a brief background of who the Share Foundation are and what we do. So the Share Foundation is a charity and we have been operating since 2005. From 2005 until 2012, we made additional contributions to the Child Trust Funds. Just going to move the slide on. Okay, so what we have done since 2012, we got together with Barnardo's and Action for Children to lobby government to give something extra to looked after children. We didn't know what they were going to do, and what they chose to do was to give each looked after child, once they'd been in care for a year, £200 to go into a junior ISA. We then took on the contract for that and took over administering the junior ISAs in 2012. The contract widened in 2017 to cover child trust funds, so we now are looking after child trust funds where there isn't a person of parental responsibility. And we just, as Gavin said, had the contract renewed from the DFE in April this year. All costs are covered by government and a philanthropist, so any donations that we do get in all go towards the children. So, junior ISAs and child trust funds, to sort of give you a bit of a background on this. The child trust funds was a scheme set up by Gordon Brown, I believe back in 2002, and it ended in 2011. This was for all children, so that were born in those years. What they didn't do was educate anybody. So it was wonderful, it was fantastic, but there was no education alongside it. When that obviously ended, junior ISAs then came in, and this is what we then do. We have where anyone can contribute towards an account, so donations can be made. We also can take that from local authorities, foster carers, whoever wants to make a donation into that child's savings accounts, we will administer for them. We only manage CTF accounts where the local authority or the health trust confirms that there is no one of parental responsibility. We also positively encourage children when they turn 16 to take ownership of their accounts. So, as Gavin mentioned, there is a huge number of young people that are now 18 plus that know nothing about their accounts, and we are trying to get the word out there. What we did do was we brought in a bilateral agreement with local authorities, and part of the team works very, very hard to make sure that we are getting the last contact details of those young people so that we can go out there and hopefully locate them with their accounts, because it is their money. That is our work that we do. We work closely with local authorities to administer the contributions to the child trust funds and junior ISAs savings accounts, so that a young person will have all of their money in one place rather than having lots of different accounts. We want to keep it all together. A child trust fund and junior ISA are a savings accounts for young people that they can access once they turn 18 years old. So it is building up for them, and it is a pot of money. Okay. So the Stepladder programme. This is an incentivised financial educational programme. There are 6 steps to the programme, and the young person will have £1,500 if they complete all 6 steps, paid into their child trust fund or junior ISA. And this is what we believe in. We believe in education. We believe that there is no point in giving these young people a pot of money, but not giving them any advice as to what to do with it. I always use the example of my daughter when she went off to university, and we walked into the bank and we were changing her account from a child's account to a student account. On the spot, she was offered a loan, an overdraft and a credit card with no guidance. There was nothing. Here's a leaflet. And it amazed me. I was just stood there thinking, what is the young child to do if you are suddenly offered all of this money but you don't have the education to understand what it is? And so this is what we hope to do with the Stepladder Plus programme. Stepladder Plus was set up in 2015, and it has been growing ever since then. So what we like to do is we want to help young people to understand financial awareness. We want to make that difference, that they will know what each thing means. So we work with them with literacy, numeracy, financial capability. So these first 3 steps, they're all done online. A young person can choose when they want to do them. If they want to do them at midnight, if they want to do them during the day. What I have feedback from people is that it's opened conversations, whether that be with a foster carer, a mentor, a social worker, anybody that is associated with that child. It starts to get them talking about things that they wouldn't have talked about, and it just hopefully starts to educate them. Planning for the future. I'm going to give you a few of what young people have said. This is where they write 250 to 500 words, and they talk about themselves. Their stories are humbling. It's the difference between their children and my children is vast. But what it does, it gives you a sense of who they are, and it gives us the opportunity to try and help and support them as they then look to be leaving care. Step 5 is financial capability. This, to me, is one of the most important steps. It is an 8-week programme, and it was devised by the Open University. It educates them on everything from a savings account to a current account to a loan to a mortgage to council tax to your PAYE to what your tax or your national insurance or pensions. It covers it all. And we like them to take the 8 weeks. It has podcasts, it has slides. But what we get the feedback of is it gives them those life skills, those tools that they can then hopefully take with them through later life. Some of them they won't need straight away, but we hope that ones that they do need, they will then be able to go back. Step 6. This is the important one as well, because we're now securing their future education, employment or training. We will look at what their Step 4 plan said. We will look at what they want to do in the future. We will try to support them to achieve those goals. We will offer them advice. We will look to see who we can get to support them as well. I work very closely with the local authorities in England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. They have all different programmes. You will have Aspire to Home Ownership, Aspire to University, and we all come together to try to make sure that we are supporting those young people as best we can. So, some statistics. We have 2 programmes that run side by side. I'm talking more about Stepladder Plus today, but we do have the incentive-free version as well. Stepladder Plus is aimed at 15 to 17-year-olds. It goes right up until their 18th birthday. The reason for that is we can only pay into their child trust fund or junior ISA until their 18th birthday. But we want the programme to be able to be there for everybody, and this is where incentivised learning, we can see the big difference. So the statistics on the slide now show you that the incentivised learning of how many steps are completed is obviously significantly different to those that do not have the incentivisation. And this is why we strongly believe in it. In the past, how incentivised learning worked for us was that we would either go to local authorities and see if they had any room in their budgets. We would look to get trusts, foundations to come and support these young people. We were very, very lucky last year to have an incredible donation from the British Bankers Association, and that enabled us to open the programme in October last year to all local authorities, and then all young people aged between 15 and their 18th birthday could take part. So this was huge. We saw an increase, astoundingly, it trebled overnight. It was so many young people were coming onto the programme that wouldn't have had that opportunity before. One local authority, the young person was so enthusiastic that she told everybody about it. When she went to the local authority to try to get them on board, they didn't want to know, but she has been a huge advocate going out there and spreading the word. But yes, it made a real big difference, and it's what it is doing as well, is hopefully giving us the data to start to prove how incentivised learning works, which Tina is going to explain a little bit more about later on. So, I've got to move on because I've lost myself. Right, okay. So this is some feedback, which I'm going to go to in a minute, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually read her Step 4 plan. When I turn 18 in February, I have rent due the same day as a biology test at school. So she's not 18 yet, and that's what's going to happen when she does turn 18. Therefore, 2 weeks before, I will apply for universal credit. This is my monthly budgeting plan, inspired by the Stepladder. shown in the tasks. My income, and then she goes on, she describes her income and what she's going to do, how she's going to put some of her money into a savings account. She talks about how she's going to hopefully save for a summer holiday. She is looking also to go to university, and she is looking then as to how she can get a job to increase that money so that she can keep supporting herself. All of these things are very important to her. What she's also put is that she would like an ensuite room, and she has budgeted for that ensuite room. These are all things that most young people would have looked out for them. She didn't have anybody. This was her. She has looked at bursaries, and we have tried to support her with this. So this was her feedback. I'm going to leave it on the screen and let you have a read, and just what she thought of the programme. And I think what really impressed me about what she had to say was it's all good telling someone how to save money, but it's hard to care about it if you barely have any. And this is the thing, they get their child trust funds or their junior ISAs, and some can be £1,000, but some can be quite a lot of money depending upon, unfortunately, which local authority or who's contributed towards that. But if they have no idea what to do with it, at 18, if you are suddenly given £1,000, £10,000, and you haven't had that education, most people might go on holiday. They might do something else, but would they think about saving that money? Would they think to how can I use that money? And that's what we hope to do. That's what we look to educate them on. We have lots of step fours where they talk about different things, and they're from every walk of life. We had one young man, and he was deaf, and he wants to go into audiology. So he was explaining to us what he was going to do and how he was going to get there and what he wanted to see. His eventual dream was to become an audiologist, and it's because he is deaf himself. But he also wants to help with audiology appointments because that was where he felt that his experience was really lacking and what he didn't feel he got from that. We had another young lady who is looking to go on, I think she might change the world, but she basically looked at law and criminology, and she really did want to make huge changes. But hers was mainly focusing on FGM, and it was humbling just reading her story. She was an amazing young lady, and I will be watching what she goes on to do. We have been working really closely, as Gavin said, with Tina, who has been helping us with the research. And this is where the difference comes in, because I work with the looked after children, so understanding them and understanding what they can and cannot want to give us in information, and that's the key here. It's like we're trying to build a picture of them, but for a looked after child, they may not want to tell us everything about themselves. Most of them will not want to talk about it. So it's trying to find a way to get that information without obviously causing any further distress. We've also been working with Mutual Ventures to try to secure funding, moving the programme on so that we can then hopefully build a business case where we can look into social investment funding. All of these things are progressing, and this is what we've been doing recently. I came into the role in January 2022, and I sat down with Gavin and we had a long chat about how we could get this out there, and I'm pleased to see that it has really started to move on. So this is sort of where we are now. Like I said, our future plans of where we are going. We want to help these young people to make the difference. That's the thing. I think it is that transitional attitudinal change is what we want to do, and it is something that we really believe in. So I'm going to pause. Are there any questions? I'm liking that. It's very... Oh, crikey, yep.
If I could ask, my name is Mark Boyder from Tomorrow's Company. We're involved, we've just started working in a pilot with a secondary school.
Yeah.
In a program that's very much about bringing up the entrepreneurial capabilities of students. Students who on the whole find the educational process to them discouraging, telling them they're going to be failures. So the question I wanted to ask you is, for this program, I think it's very inspiring, but for this program to achieve its full potential, I'm wondering if it can be linked in future more and more to the sort of network of organisations who are trying to promote that kind of entrepreneurialism, that kind of can-do approach, that overcoming that disempowerment that people feel about secondary education. And I'm thinking also of charities like the Peter Jones Foundation, which we've got to know, which encourages entrepreneurs. So, is there the potential for that kind of outreach?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I think what we try to do and what we get a lot of feedback from is that for children that have become disengaged with education, this gives them the opportunity to actually start to come back into it because it's incentivised as well. So suddenly you do find them going, oh, okay. I've had young people who have said, you know, that they don't want to do education. And so we've looked at different things because we get education isn't for everybody and everything is open. I think that's, you know, where we are. We want to expand this as much as we can do. So, yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
Do you have resources available for mentoring the young people? Or is it more just an online service?
No, I am mentoring quite a lot of the young people. My colleague Catherine Caswell is a great support. She also helps me with the mentoring. And we have a group of people throughout the local authorities that we also call upon. It's, you know, it's something that we expand if we need to, but we have so far been able to manage the mentoring side of it ourselves.
It seems to be as important as...
It is, absolutely. Because for us, you know, it's helping those young people where they need to go. We can look up things that they may not think of. I mean, most of them are very tech savvy and they are very resourceful, but sometimes they won't know everything. We'll also work with the local authorities to find out how we can best support those young people and what is available in their area, because again, each local authority will have different things. So, yeah. Yes.
So, following on from this thought about the mentoring, I wondered if you had a chance to tap into the STEM Ambassadors program, which is quite successful, and they've got a new website thing where they let you select what you want to do.
Yeah.
They don't have a box where you can tick mentoring. So maybe
you
should have a box where you can tick mentoring.
That might be the case. Well, that's it. I mean, we offer it, and it's something that, you know, we're very proud of that we do. So, yeah.
Maybe a partnership.
Well, it's something to look at. That's for sure. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, so is this limited about £200 going in, and also is it stocks and shares, junior ISA, or one which by definition is losing money against inflation?
Yes, unfortunately. I mean, I think the thing to say with junior ISAs and child trust funds, and again, I might go back to Gavin on this one, but my understanding is that they are put in secure things rather than risky. So that sort of, it is a risk-averse fund that they are put in. I do understand that they are losing money. They're, you know, we all know that, but we do try to make sure, so the money that gets added to their pot is their money, so that is secure in that sense. The £200 that has gone in at the start, unfortunately, is due to whatever would go up and down.
It's not a cash item, it's a stock and shares, but it's invested with a certain amount of
Yeah. I was going to say, Gavin, you probably could answer it better than I.
All of these accounts, whether they're child trust funds or junior ISAs, they're all basically invested in stock market assets, and they do see growth so over the, to the long term with the young person, which is really important. The other thing I'd just like to point out is that it varies very widely between one local authority and another. But in a way, that £200 is just a starter. I mean, the Share Foundation is the only organisation which knows the identity of all the young people in care for over a year across the United Kingdom. Otherwise, they're all in individual local authorities. And so actually, it's really important to gather this information together and to be able to coordinate a programme like that. Now, some of those local authorities take much more interest than others. Each year, the government will put in probably approaching £3 million into that £200 which goes into each account. The combined total of local authority contributions on top of that is over 4 million now per year, and it's been growing at a rate of about 30% a year.
Yes.
It's really encouraging the way that this is being picked up. Sorry.
No, that's fabulous. Yes.
With the young members of my family,
Yeah.
I put them in a SIP rather than an ISA because it gives a longer time. Again, it's equities.
Yes.
So it gives them this longer time to learn about how these things work. And the education is imperative. And also by putting it in a SIP, I can put less money in to give them more money.
Yes.
So it's the compounding. And the compounding over 60 years, which is what we're looking at for China, is a massive difference. And that compounding will compound the wealth gap. If you're in a fairly low level investment compared to a good investment, the compounding wealth is massively different.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the junior ISAs was set up by the government, so that is the accounts that we monitor and administer. So, yeah.
Also getting the entertainment from your daughter, desperately trying to get the money out for the next
Yes.
years, and being unable to.
Yeah. Well, that's part of what we do. You know, we like to locate these young people with their accounts, and as I said, they can take over their accounts from 16. So we do positively encourage them because they can see as well the money that is going into their accounts, and they can start to think about how they would like to manage that account as well. So this is, you know, something that we also look at, so within the Share Foundation. But yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sorry.
We have one from online.
Oh, okay.
Cheryl Fusio, who actually wanted to be in the room in person, but got trapped somewhere else with the launch of their own shareholder fairness movement called the Engagement Act. One of their millions is to sign up, one of their missions is to sign up 1 million individuals to commit inclusive investment engagement. One of the ways that we engage individuals and help them learn, especially Gen Z, millennial and younger, is via digital and gamification. How much does the Share Foundation consider digitalisation?
Oh, Gavin, did you want to answer? You noticed I went, oh.
She's given me a website link,
Okay.
engagement.appeal.org, if that's anything else.
Okay.
I'll come down for later. Yeah.
I think the only thing I'd just say is it's a very structured program, the Stepladder program being designed by professional education.
Yes, absolutely.
From that point of view. We'd be delighted to talk to Cheryl about how we might be able to expand that and develop it.
Yeah.
Let's take it on board, and we'll be in contact with them.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to pass you on to Tina now, who is going to talk to you about the research that we are doing, or that she is doing, because I'm not doing that part.
Oops. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Tina and I'm currently a first-year PhD student at Cambridge. So thank you all for coming to today's conference. In the next couple of minutes, I will be introducing to you the research part of the Stepladder Plus program. Our key research objective is to estimate the treatment effect of the Stepladder Plus program on the likelihood of care leavers becoming NEET. That is, becoming unemployed and not receiving an education or vocational training. Before moving on to discussing the research proposal and the current progress, I would like to talk about what we expect and what we already know from existing literature. The Stepladder Plus program intervenes teenagers from multiple perspectives, with financial education being one of the key components. So there is many existing literature that investigate the importance of financial education. For example, a meta-analysis by Kasser and Mancroft shows that the average impact of educational intervention on financial literacy and financial behavior are both statistically highly significant. Hilger, Goldgarth, and Beverly report a strong correlation between financial literacy and day-to-day financial management skills. Other research find that financial literacy is also linked to the demand for on-the-job training and being able to cope with financial emergencies. Given these evidence, we believe that the program will increase caregivers' financial management skills, as well as the chances of getting into higher education and employment after they reach age 18. Next, I'll talk about how we plan to validate this hypothesis. The idea is to view the participants as the treatment group and similar caregivers who did not participate in the program as the control group. Then we will track both groups over time and collect individual level data, including school attendance, education attainment such as their GCSE and A-level scores, information about their foster family, and most importantly, their NEET status. Then, with this information, we will be able to perform a regression to estimate the treatment effect of the program. Specifically, the outcome variable here, so the NEET I here, is a binary indicator of whether the caregivers becomes NEET. And we will regress this on another binary indicator treatment, which indicate their treatment status. And at the same time, we will control for other individual level variables, which is captured by this capital X here. The key parameter of interest is this beta 1 here, which we would expect to be negative. So the interpretation is that participating in the Stepladder Plus program will reduce the likelihood of being NEET by the negative of beta 1 times 100 percentage points. At the current stage, we're trying to collect individual level data of teenagers in care. A few challenges have risen in this progress. First, in comparison to others, teenagers in care can be more sensitive and less willing to share their information with us. This means that we have to be extremely careful when we design our survey and questionnaire so that we do not hurt the feelings of the respondents, and at the same time we're able to get unbiased and valid information. Secondly, since we do not have direct connection with looked after children who did not participate in the program, it can be difficult to get information about the control group. However, we have been trying to overcome this issue by working with local authorities. Thirdly, the current sample size might not be big enough to getting a valid quantitative result. However, recently we have seen a surge in the number of participants. And also, as Natasha mentioned, we recently have the joining of Mutual Venture, a social investment-focused consultancy, which has brought in the possibility of developing Stepladder Plus program into a social impact bond. This means that we will be able to get more funding from investors, and this will allow us to scale up the program such that we can deliver a larger positive social impact and expand the number of participants, which also means a larger sample size for the research. And lastly, since caregivers' NEET status can only be observed after they turn 18, while most of the current participants are between age 15 and 17, this means that in order to get their information about their NEET status, we do have to wait until they grow up, so the research is going to span over a long time horizon. However, we can still estimate some short-run treatment effect by changing the outcome variable to things such as school grades, which we can observe in the near future. Once we have enough data, we will be able to perform the regression and answer our research question. In short, we expect the Stepladder Plus program to reduce caregivers' likelihood of becoming NEET, and we plan to estimate the magnitude of this effect using regression techniques. And yeah, so that's my part. Thank you for listening, and we welcome any comments or questions. So, if there's any question about like how we're going to implement the research, this is the time to, or any other relevant question.
So just in terms of follow-up information, I guess this is always going to be one of these difficult issues. I guess this is for everyone. Do we have a sense of how these kids can be tracked at later ages, given that, often people just say, I'm I'm done with this.
Yeah, so we contact them a year after they complete the programme. So once they turned 18, we then would contact them to see where they are and what they're doing. So what we're looking to do is to have something that will become part of the programme that will encourage them to also engage with us in that time scale. So most of them that we do call answer the phone to us and they do respond. So we do have quite a success rate on that, and that hopefully will continue.
Eric, I don't know if so I'd just like to say that I attended about 3 weeks ago a wonderful conference which you did in Queen's College here on a lot of things about economic inequalities. It was a very academic conference, and we saw a lot of algorithms, formulae, like the one that Tina had shown us. I wonder if you could just explain to people how economists go about that. I'm an engineer by training,
Sure.
And it was challenging for me.
Sure. Yeah. So I think there's always this question of how can we identify the impact of the treatment, right? So at some level, there's always this question of who chooses the treatment, and so this is always going to be an important issue. So, for example, more motivated individuals wind up choosing the treatment, and we see that they do better in life. We have to do at least our best to try and disentangle what we might call both the treatment effect, the actual impact of the Stepladder program relative to the selection effect, just the fact that more motivated people might select into this particular program. So, of course, the ideal, the experimental ideal would be, would be like hard science, and we could randomly assign some individuals into treatment and other people into no treatment. It's often very difficult to kind of achieve that ideal in social science. So at some level, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get as close as we can to that ideal in terms of trying to think about, well, what other covariates can we condition on to think about for people who look very similar. We can compare those who go into the Stepladder program versus not. So that is what's often referred to as using regression techniques, and that's what Tina and the team are going to be doing in terms of doing our best to try and tease out what is, quote, the treatment effect relative to the selection effect.
Just one thing to add up upon what Eric just mentioned. So the issue he talked about is what we call selection bias. In our case, we might expect those who sign up for the program to be more hardworking than those who did not sign up, and then in the end, since those participants are more hardworking, it's more likely for them to get into higher education or training. Initially, when we were thinking about the selection bias issue, we did think about the possibility of running a randomized control trial. So that means that among all the people who signed up for the program, we're going to randomly select a few to actually allow them to participate in the Stepladder Plus program. And others who sign up, we just don't give them the chance to do it, and then we compare these two groups as the treatment and control group. But after discussing with people at the Share Foundation, our conclusion is that we don't want to reject any teenager who want to participate, because while the research part is definitely very, very important, we do wish to maximize the positive social impact that this program delivers. So that's why we chose to not do a randomized control trial, which may give better research result, but will not allow everyone to participate. And our solution is to run a regression where we control for as many individual level characteristics as possible. So then we are able to allow everyone interested in the program to participate and at the same time get some quantitative result that we're happy with. So please go ahead.
Very interesting. Particularly struck me as the thing that's plagued me in the past your last point, what we're looking at is the long-term effect. What we want to have is some understanding, if you like, some near-term measure on a trajectory. What's your thinking about that at the moment? Psychologists start thinking of all the psychological changes you might be looking for, but from your point of view, how do you think about those near-term measures?
From my point of view, is just that, so because research depends a lot on what data we have, so from my point of view, it's just in the short run, what outcome variable we're able to get. So probably the easiest is just after they participated in the Stepladder Plus program, have their financial knowledge improved, have their participation in school improved. These can all be viewed as short-term variables, and also maybe their mental status have like the program improved all these. And ultimately, in the long run, we are able to observe more things such as like their wage possibly, and whether they did successfully going to higher education and university. So from a research point of view, it's just what data we're able to get in the short run and long run.
And I think I should say at this point, it's understanding as well what effect the programme has and how long we can review that effect for. We are hoping that it will go with them through life, but the reality is that they will only say it's for a year after the programme. Then we'll be looking at other things that may have come into their lives and made a difference. So there is always that to bear in mind as well.
Oh, and also one thing to, just one thing to add on. This program, the Stepladder Plus program, actually has been running for a few years. So currently we do have a sample of whom have already reached age 18, 19, and currently Natasha is organizing information about them. So we are able to try to get some result regarding the effect on their NEET status. It's just that the sample size isn't big enough right now. Yeah, please go ahead.
In terms of how you're measuring performance, you talk a lot about going to higher education, university. I assume that is merely one of the indicators, rather than you looking at whether they did further education, apprenticeships, etc. Because I would regard those, despite being among this hallowed institution, Cambridge, as equally valid and equally desirable, rather than just focusing on higher education.
Yeah, we are focusing on what they go to do. So whether that is they go on into higher education, they go into training, or they go into employment, it's all of it is covered. You know, it's looking at what they go to do afterwards and how they go about it. So yes, it's not just for higher education. So yeah.
Yeah. So overall, it's just so we view NEET as a binary indicator, but at the same time, we do wish to collect more specific information, like specifically whether they went into job market or whether they went into education. So just depending on the quality of data, the regression can be very flexible. So we should be able to get a lot of results from the research. Yeah, please go ahead.
Do you have an indication of how long this money remains invested before it gets spent, and it be held on for a deposit for a flat as it grows? And the £1,500 is that on top of the £200, so it grows quite a large.
It does. Yeah. So the £1,500, if they complete all 6 steps, gets paid into their child trust fund or junior ISA on top of their £200. Depending upon when they went into care and depending upon the local authority. So we work very, very closely as well at the Share Foundation in getting donations from the local authority. So we're putting all of that young person's money into one account. But like I said, it varies from each local authority. So a young person could have, if they did the programme and they had the £200, they'd have £1,700 if they had nothing else contributed towards that. If they do have other contributions, then that's when it will get bigger as well. And what we hope is that by doing the programme, they will then start to think about, the money becomes theirs at 18. We can't control what they choose to do with the money. We hope that educating them with what they can do with the money and how they can actually make the money work for them will be what they choose to do.
hope that answers your question.
Yes, please go ahead.
To what extent has cuts in local authority funding affected the ability of...
Who speak with the authorities?
Yes, again, it's each local authority is different, and I see that across the board, you know, unfortunately. Yeah, the rural local authorities tend to struggle the most, I think, in comparison to the urban, but each local authority, I guess, has a budget that they apply for, they have different things that they apply for, and that's what we do see. You know, we have a lot of the, I think it's the Midlands, they do have like a group together, and they'll have Aspire to Home Ownership, Aspire to University, Aspire to different things, which they set up groups for. So it all depends upon how active that local authority is and what they choose to do. Unfortunately, we don't have any real control over that, but we try to support all local authorities as best as we can with that. So.
Do you have a relationship with local government as a sector through local government association? Is there a
so we are
forum that you're part of?
Yeah, so we work alongside the DFE, so that is who runs the contracts with us for the child trust funds and the junior ISAs, and we then offer this financial educational programme. We work very closely in partnership with them to try to get them to understand what we're doing. They're great advocates, but as you know, with government, everything's about funding, and funding is what is lacking, unfortunately. So this is why we've been working very closely with Mutual Ventures to try to build a business case to see how we can, what we can tap into. I mean, I think Gavin said earlier, you know, we want to make a change in a policy, but that is something that is further on down the line, but that's where we hope to get to eventually. So.
And just one other question on the education aspect. To what extent is the education programme becoming embedded within virtual teachers in local authorities?
Yeah, so I work very closely with the virtual schools, with them as well. I mean, I think that, you know, it is supposed to be something that is in all schools, and unfortunately it is not. That is the reality. But, you know, this is why we try to offer this, especially to the most vulnerable young people in our society. So the aim eventually is to get this programme to all. You know, that is the aim. So, yeah.
Sorry, am I right in thinking that all local authorities are supposed to save a certain amount?
They are.
For each child?
Yes.
And so what the Share Foundation has been trying to do is encourage those local authorities to put that money directly into the child ISA or junior child trust fund or junior ISA, rather than trying to do something separate, and you've been making quite good progress on that.
We have, and that's, you know, that is another side of what we do.
It's a weekly amount.
It is, yeah. They tend to send us over reports, but it's making sure that they send us the right information. You know, what we don't want to happen is that these young people have 10 different accounts out there. We want them to have one centralised account where they can see and they can understand how their money has been growing. So yeah, we work very hard to make sure that all local authorities, and we have increased the local authorities that do donate towards those young people's accounts.